What are the top 5 GRE prep mistakes? Stick around and find out today on this episode of Navigating Academia. What's up, everybody? My name is Dr. Phoenix Singh, and I want to warmly welcome you to this episode of Navigating Academia, your leading source of guidance for how to advance your career in academia. Now, as always, I appreciate the love, so please do take a moment to like and share this video with your friends, with your colleagues, with your students. Subscribe to our channel, hit that bell so you get notifications every time that we post new original content, which is every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time here in the US. And finally, follow us on the social media accounts below. All right, so let's jump right in. Today we're going to be discussing what I perceive to be the top 5 GRE preparation mistakes. Taking the GRE, especially if you're somebody who's not like a master test taker, and I can tell you that that's me. I have never been good at taking standardized tests. They make me very anxious. It's something where it seems like, no matter what I do, especially when I was taking the SAT, right? So for college, I had a heck of a time, let me tell you. It was really stressful for me, and it was even more stressful looking around at other people who it seemed like this was so easy, and the first time they took the test, they scored, so high. And for me, it was just like a huge struggle. Now for the GRE, I think I really cracked it. I only took it one time, got an exceptionally high score, which, trust me on this one, was totally unanticipated, but definitely worked for. And because of that, I feel like I'm in a good place to be able to give you some guidance, which I hope is going to be practical for you. We have another video, which is all about how best to prep for the GRE, but this one is specifically going to be about mistakes, what I perceive to be the biggest errors to be when you are preparing to take the examination, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into mistake number 1. Mistake number 1 is focusing your prep work on only one section. Only on the essays, only on the verbal, only on the math. Just one of the three. Now, sometimes you may be like just phenomenal at math, just so incredibly good, you never had to study. You just never had to look at anything when it came to geometry, when it came to algebra, etc. These different types of maths that you're going to see word problems on the GRE, on the math section. However, if you only focus on one side in terms of the verbal and the essays, you are leaving a huge blind spot open, and especially when it comes to a test like this, where at the end of the day, for many top graduate programs, the GRE is going to be an essential piece of what I call the triage process, which is the initial screen to be able to screen people out, right? Now, different universities, different programs are going to use the GRE in a different capacity. What I've seen most often, though, at the different universities that I've been involved with throughout my life, in 6 different countries, what I see consistently is that the standardized tests are not used to be able to say, wow, this guy got a perfect score, he's definitely accepted. That's not really a thing, especially for research programs. But what you will end up seeing is just initially this flood coming in of applications. And so what ends up happening is that we need a way to be able to screen people out. And so this is where we end up seeing something like test scores and like grades being used as a very rapid screening tool to be able to screen people in and out, right? So by focusing on only one section and basically leading the other, not necessarily at a chance, because I'm sure that when you're neglecting that area of prep, you're thinking that it's because you've got it in the bag, or maybe you took a practice test and you just totally aced it. At the same time, you really have to be careful, okay? I really want you to think about, even though it may seem really redundant, prepping through, really continuing that process, because I want you to be as fresh as possible on test day. The second GRE prep mistake is not using available resources. Now, if you're an undergraduate or you're a master's student, you're interested in applying for, let's say, a doctoral program, whatever it happens to be, right? You are most likely going to have on-campus resources, right? For example, folks like Kaplan, Princeton, Review, these different companies where they make money right, based on people taking their courses online or in person, they oftentimes will come to your university and administer a practice test. As many practice tests as you can take, you should take them. And you shouldn't take them all right up front. You shouldn't take them all at the end. You should really kind of pace them out and take them at a really predictable clip, okay? Take advantage of on-campus study groups. And if there are no study groups, you can start a study group, especially within your department. People that you know, like, and trust. People also, not just people who are like you know really well, but if there's folks who they're just very, very bright, and sometimes they may be a bit intimidating because you'll think, oh man, they're going to do so much better than I am. Well, aren't those the people that you want to be studying with, right? Invite them over to your dorm or whatever, right? Hang out, go to the cafeteria, prep with them. It'll be great, right? Also take advantage of any online resources you can find. Now, there is a lot of bunk, a lot of bad information out there. So try to go with somebody who has a name or reputation that's respected, okay? And finally, any in-person classes. For me personally, I used a two-prong approach. I did in-person for Princeton Review and I did online for Kaplan. And that was awesome. I love online Kaplan because what they did is that they provided so many questions that were specific to individual question types. And I just thought that was outstanding, right? Honestly, that helped me out so much because they were, like, word problems were really hard for me when it came to the verbal section, when it came to the math section. And for the verbal section, you know, things like, at the time we had like antonyms, which I'm not sure if antonyms are still on there. I feel old, right? But that was a real challenge for me. So because I was able to prep those specific question types, and then by going to the in-person classes with Princeton Review, it gave me a more comprehensive view. That worked really well, okay? At the end of the day, a big reason people don't do this is that they're really stubborn or they're shy or they want to be overly independent and say, well, you know, I can do this on my own. I don't need other people. This is not a time to leave things up to chance when you're prepping for an important test like this. So I think that's mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 is not debriefing after taking practice tests. Okay, so you take a practice exam, and you'll hear me say in other videos on this channel about the GRE, so make sure you take a look through all of our different episodes because we've got a number on standardized test taking that I think you're really going to enjoy, specifically about the GRE, if that's what you're going to be taking. But here's the thing, right? You're going to be taking practice tests, right? And hopefully you're going to be taking them in an environment where you are as close as possible going to be mimicking the environment that you're actually going to be in when you take the test, right? So, you know, wearing earplugs all the time, I always recommend. However, do it in places where there's a lot of noise, like a cafeteria. Do it in quiet places like a library. Do it in places where you're alone and in places where there are a lot of people. Try to make it something where you're not only practicing in one setting, okay? Because if you only do it in one setting and then you go to the test taking facility and it's completely different, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. We want to generalize your test taking abilities, and that's a great way to be able to do it. So when you do take these practice tests, and in whatever environment you have selected for that particular day, when you're done, I know it's going to be exhausting. You're probably so mentally drained, but whether it's the next day or the same day, whatever, right? After you've scored yourself, I want you to go through question by question to debrief yourself. And the big error here is not to just debrief and review the questions you got correct. People only do the questions they got incorrect. Also look at what you got right, okay? Because in some cases, it may be a really hard question type that you very rarely get correct. So when you look at it, you may be surprised that you got it right. Make sure you analyze where you went right, and not just where you went wrong on other things, okay? This is really important, something people do not do. So to me, that's mistake number 3, not debriefing properly after practice tests. Prep mistake number 4 is not preparing under realistic conditions. And this relates to what I said in the previous point, right? A realistic condition is most likely going to be determined by where and the nature of your testing facility. So when you decide when you're going to take the test, right, and you sign up, you can sign up well in advance. I do recommend doing that because it gives you a definitive end date. Now, I believe you can also push it to a later date, right? You can cancel, etc. But just by making that commitment, it provides you with kind of this mental clarity and this mental timeline that you can then work off of to be able to schedule your prep activities, okay? Now, the thing is that I want you to go as soon as possible to that facility, and I want you to get a sense for what it looks like. What is the lighting like? Is it really dark? Is it crazy bright with fluorescent lighting? Is there a lot of noise? Maybe, directly above or underneath there's a loud office. Is it, total bone silent? Whatever it is, I want you to figure that out, and then I want you to mimic as closely as possible to that testing situation most of your prep activities. But like I mentioned a moment ago, when I went and did this for myself, it was like totally silent at the place that I went to. But then I went again a couple of days before the actual test, and they had started construction directly across the street, right? And there were jackhammers and these things all day. It was so loud. But thankfully, even though I did most of my test prep under the conditions that I believed were going to be correct, I also did what I mentioned a moment ago, which is I practiced in some cases in loud environments, most of the time in quiet, because that's what the test situation was supposed to be, according to my initial data that I'd collected. But luckily, I had prepped that, and because of that, I was still safe, okay? But try to figure out what are the realistic conditions. So for example, the likelihood that they're gonna let you wear a smartwatch or bring, like a fancy pen or something like that is basically nil, right? Practice using basic number 2 pencils, practice using basic blank A4 sheets of paper, practice using an analog, very, old school watch. I want you to really mimic realistic conditions for the day of the test. And finally, number 5 is not double checking your work prior to answering. When you're doing prep, and it could be a practice test or just individual questions, right? Practice just like on the day of the test. Double check everything. As you practice doing this, even if it's not normal for you or you are overconfident, right? Confidence can be something that's a double-edged sword, okay? Because it really can be something that gets you into a lot of trouble where you think 100% I'm right, I don't even have to check that again. And then you get it incorrect, right? And the GRE is one of these tests where you want to try to really get as many questions right as possible, obviously, right? Always double check your work, even if you're basically certain. Think about your own thought process that you took to be able to get in there, and try to play devil's advocate on yourself, even though sometimes that doesn't feel very good. That is really going to provide you with the best chance to be able to max the accuracy of your answers throughout not just prep, but then also on the day of the test. All right, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. As always, we appreciate your time as well as your feedback. It really helps us out on the YouTube algorithm. If you do like this video, subscribe to our channel. And it really helps us as well if you comment below. So even if you just enjoyed the video, right, please do write something. It genuinely helps us out. We're a young channel. We're trying to grow as large and as fast as we can so we can help as many people as possible. So please do that for us. We'd appreciate it. And if you know of anybody who's going to be taking the test with you, or maybe you're a parent and you know that your munchkin is going to be taking the test, please do share this video with them or share the link on social media. Really helps us out. And as always, if you're interested in one-on-one career mentoring with me, where I can get you totally prepped for the GRE, totally prepped with all your application materials so we can go through it together, help you find the right programs, etc., then set up a 1-hour free consultation call with me via the website below if you would like to explore further consultation after that, okay? I really appreciate it. I get a lot of requests for this, so I'm always requesting now, guys, that if you're not interested in pursuing anything beyond the 1 hour, please just type a question below in the comments to be able to save the time. I appreciate it. I just get so many requests, and I want to be sure I'm as responsive as I can to all of you. All right, folks, have a wonderful day. I'm signing off, and I hope you get out there, take chances, and as always, as we say, be your best self. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.